beneath the ice, beneath the pine. An older rhythm keeps the time, drumming the earth, breath in the stone. This northern land is not alone. From tundra bare to cedar line, from prairie gold to granite spine, where northern lights in silence bend and winter never meets its end.
There's a difference between getting lost and being led astray. Most of us like to think we'd know the difference, that we'd recognize danger when we hear it, or that instinct would kick in before anything truly bad could happen. But the wilderness doesn't always show itself that way. Sometimes it sounds like someone that needs your help. You're camping along a remote stretch of coastline. The kind of place where the trees seem to swallow sound, and the fog rolls in so thick it turns your flashlight into a glowing blur. It's late. The fire's burned down to glowing embers, and the rest of your group has long since retreated to their tents. The only thing awake besides you are the waves against the shore and the occasional creak of branches shifting in the wind. You throw another log on the fire when you hear it. A baby crying. You stop. At first you think you imagined it. Maybe it was a bird. Maybe the wind caught something just right. But then it comes again. Sharp, panicked, unmistakably human. It's coming from the shoreline. You sweep your flashlight towards where it's coming from. Nothing. Just trees and rocks. The crying comes a third time. You glance back toward the tents. Everyone else is fast asleep. The fire pops behind you, and you briefly consider waking someone up. But your mind is made up. If that's really a child out there, it needs help now. You grab your flashlight and start walking. The beam cuts a narrow tunnel through the darkness as you walk closer to the shoreline. Each step pulls you further from the campsite, until even the glow of the fire disappears behind you. The cries continue ahead, just out of reach. You get to a place where the shoreline tightens. Water on one side, dense forest on the other. The crying suddenly stops. The silence that follows is worse. You call out, but receive no more cries. You stop moving. Your flashlight drifts slowly over the rocks, searching for this child. A shape near the waterline shifts, low to the ground, dark fur, moving just enough for you to register before slipping behind stone. An animal, maybe. You let out a nervous laugh, and the breath you didn't realize you'd been holding. You turn to head back toward camp after coming to the conclusion you're hearing things. Then your name is spoken softly from behind you. You freeze. The voice sounds like someone you know. Someone who shouldn't be here anymore. Someone your memory insists is impossible. Your hands tremble as you raise the flashlight again. A figure is now standing near the water's edge. It almost looks human, but wrong. The proportions are off. The arms too long, the posture too bent, as if the body isn't entirely sure how to stand like this. Wet fur is clinging to its frame. Its head turns toward you. For a brief moment, there's something almost recognizable beneath it. Features that mimic human structure, just enough to be disturbing instead of comforting. Dark eyes, teeth that don't sit right in the mouth, a grin that feels too wide for anything alive. Then it drops onto all fours with movement that feels impossible. It leaps across the rocks, not chasing you yet, just closing distance, testing, watching, waiting. Then the fog rolls in again, thick enough to erase everything in a single breath. When it clears, the shoreline's empty. No figure, no sound, no explanation. Just waves against stone, like nothing ever happened at all. You don't remember turning around. You don't remember running. But somehow you're already back at camp, breathless and shaking. Everything is exactly as you left it, except for one thing. Wet footprints, circling the outside of your tent. The Kushtaka is said to be many things. A shapeshifter, a trickster, a spirit that exists somewhere between human and animal. Depending on who's telling the story, it may even be a rescuer. But one thing appears again and again throughout the stories. It leads people away from safety, using what they trust most. Unlike more widely known creatures of northern folklore, the Kushtaka is not a story that relies on brute force or direct confrontation. It doesn't need to. It works in quieter ways. Familiar sounds, voices carried wrong through fog, the suggestion of someone in distress just beyond sight. And in places like this, that's often enough. Along the remote coastlines of British Columbia and the Yukon, the environment itself feels like part of the story. Jagged shorelines cut into cold water, dense cedar and spruce forests rise straight from the edge of the sea. Fog moves in without warning, reshaping distance and swallowing landmarks until even familiar ground can feel uncertain. In conditions like these, sound becomes unreliable and direction becomes guesswork. Isolation here is never just physical, it becomes perceptual. So it's easy to understand why stories like this take root here. While the Kushtaka's appearance changes depending on who's telling the story, its behavior remains remarkably consistent. It doesn't chase people. It doesn't break into homes. It doesn't wait beneath your bed. Instead, it calls. Sometimes with the voice of a loved one. Sometimes with sounds that trigger the most basic human instinct there is, the urge to help another person in need. The victim follows away from camp, from friends, from safety, and by the time they realize something isn't quite right, they're already exactly where the Kushtaka wants them. One traditional account tells of a hunter who became separated from his companions in heavy coastal fog. As he moved along the shoreline trying to find his way back, he began hearing voices calling his name. Familiar voices, people he trusted. Believing they had come looking for him, he followed them. But there was no rescue waiting. Instead, the figures that emerged were something else entirely. Shapes that wore familiarity like a disguise. Not fully human, but not fully anything else either. They surrounded him, guiding him farther from the world he knew, until the shoreline behind him no longer felt reachable. When he was finally found, he was still alive, but something about him had changed. He spoke less after that. He avoided the places he once traveled easily, and those who knew him best sometimes wondered whether he had truly returned at all, or whether something else had learned how to walk back in his place. Unlike many creatures, there isn't a traditional way to kill one. The oral accounts don't focus on that. They focus on avoiding them. The advice that appears again and again is simple. Don't follow voices you can't place. And don't let familiarity convince you that you're safe, just because it sounds like something you recognize. Some teachings also mention copper, dogs, or fire as forms of protection, though those details vary. The stories of Kushtaka exist within a much older system of oral tradition, carried by the Tlingit people. Their presence along these coastal regions stretches back long before modern borders were drawn across the land. These aren't recent additions to folklore, nor stories created in isolation. They're part of a long continuum of knowledge passed down through speech, memory, and lived experience in environments that demand attention to detail. Within that tradition, stories aren't only entertainment or warning, they're a way of preserving information across generations. They're about behavior, environment, and consequence in forms that can be remembered and retold without needing a written record. That's part of why the Kushtaka persists. So if you ever find yourself in one of these coastal regions, don't follow sounds you can't place. Don't answer voices that don't make sense. And don't let familiarity convince you to step away from where you know you're safe. I'll be exploring a bit of northern Canada and then down to the Great Smoky Mountains, which means our next episode is unfortunately postponed. But Wednesday, July 22nd, we'll return, and we'll be looking into the legend of the stranger who was said to arrive after dark, and who parents warned would carry away children that stayed out too late. This has been What Lurks North. Stay safe out there.
Beneath the pine, we walk their ground.